welcome to Behind the Lines. I'm Diane Dayton. Today we're going to talk about good things going on in our community, a difference for families. And with us right now from Bethany Christian Services, we have Mark Unger. You are the Regional Director.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. Nikki Condon, you're the Outreach Coordinator for Safe Families with Bethany. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
For those who don't really understand what Bethany Christian Services is, briefly tell us. I do believe it started in 1944, correct?
Yeah, we're not a young organization at all. We've been around over 75 years, and our mission is to demonstrate the love and the compassion of Jesus Christ by protecting children and empowering youth and strengthening families through quality social services. We have a motto, and it goes like this: together we can change the world through family. And so we approach our work in three different ways. We first serve vulnerable children here in the United States and families in the United States. We also serve refugees and immigrants, and then families around the world.
Yeah, you really are making a difference in the lives of others. And when we do that, it makes a difference in everybody's life, all of us in the community.
Yes.
Right, Nikki?
Yes, amen.
Yeah.
So I can tell you a little bit about Safe
Please
Families.
do.
Sure. So Safe Families is a ministry of Bethany Christian Services. We partner with local churches to background check and train volunteer host families and other volunteer roles. And what our volunteers do is they serve as an extended family-like network to struggling parents who are typically isolated in the community and who need some temporary help with respite for their children while they deal with a crisis situation.
Yeah, you really do make a difference in connecting. And it does take those partnerships and relationships,
Yes.
doesn't it, Mark?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And we have churches that are involved in this area as well as other community organizations. Is that correct?
Right, and so again, definitely, it's the community that builds the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do need churches, but we need the rest of the community to step alongside us, especially in programs like Safe Families and foster care, where we need people to step up and volunteer their time to care for the kids that we are seeing that need this assistance.
Okay, so how do you go about actually doing this? I mean, when you think about this, this is a massive undertaking. How do you find out about the people, the children, the individuals, the other family members that really need help? Do they find you?
Yeah, well, there's
Both, or
yeah.
how does this work?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that happens in the foster care system.
Okay.
You have to be a certified organization, so we partner with all the different counties. There's 67 counties in Pennsylvania. We work with 37 of them, and so we have contracts with each of those counties. And so we get those referrals from those counties. And so there's a child that needs to come into foster care. They contact us and find out, do you have a family that's a good fit?
Mm-hmm.
And if we do, then we make that connection. And Safe Families, we'll get referrals from all kinds of sources, and Nikki can tell you more about that.
Yeah, with Safe Families, we aim to partner with county children and youth agencies. We're a prevention-based referral source for them, so they refer families to us who aren't in need of their services so that we can help those families get connected in the community. We also receive referrals from hospitals, schools, other social service agencies, homeless shelters. So really any social service agency or any other active community organization can make a referral to us.
Yeah, and you do make a big difference because we were talking about the order of things.
Right.
Before it hits a crisis stage. Mark, address that again, please.
Yeah, and so the reality is that foster care is a reactionary service that's needed across the United States. And one way of looking at that is the reality is that foster care is reactionary, that the damage has already happened. The children have already been abused or neglected. About 85% of the kids in foster care have been abused and neglected, and so we have to remove them from their home. That's the county's job, and they place them with foster families. So what we try to do is help those families before they get to the point where the kids need to come into foster care. So programs like Safe Families for Children. Another program that we have is called Home Builders. Mm-hmm. And Home Builders is a intensive case management where we're partnering with Lancaster County Children and Youth. And so they contact us. We have to be in the home within 24 hours. And so this is where a child or children are at imminent risk of coming into foster care. So we want to prevent them from coming into foster care by giving those families supports that they need.
So this is really around the clock then, isn't it?
It is. Yep, it is 24/7.
Yeah, you don't sleep. It's all around the
Yes.
clock. What I also think is really important and is essential is the continuous support
Yes.
that you offer. Is that right,
That's
Nikki?
very true. So with Safe Families being prevention-based and being a pro-parent model, we're really aiming to, even though the hosting for the children might be for 14 to 30 days, it might be a rather short hosting. However, our goal is to keep the families connected to their host families so that next time a crisis arises, they have somebody to call to talk through it with. They have someone to trust to watch, someone they trust to watch their children. Even we connect them to other resources in the community that they might not have known about. Our caseworkers connect them to tangible goods and services through Safe Families, things like diapers, things like formula, clothing. We partner with some other nonprofits to provide those type of services to our clients.
It's about building that extended family relationship within the community, right?
With so many people don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
You know? Again, and you had mentioned it earlier as we talked, you said it's kind of like an extended family, and that's exactly what Safe Families does. But it does incorporate other folks that are needed to be a part of this, right? So churches, other community organizations, everybody has their piece in this. And as we say in Safe Families, everybody can do something to help these families.
So there's no age range with this because you never know where the need is going to be, correct?
So Safe Families can host children ages 0 through 18.
Okay.
As far as the children that
Right.
we serve. As far as our volunteers, we ask that our volunteers are age 25 or older. They can be single, they can be married, they can be empty nesters. Our volunteers really run the gamut, but something that they have in common is that they're motivated by their faith. The fact that they're not paid to voluntarily host children in their homes really breaks down a lot of barriers when serving parents in the community.
Is there a training to go through with
Yes,
this?
there's
Tell
quite a
me
few
about
trainings.
that.
Yes. So our volunteer host families, they submit an application and then they submit several clearances and background checks to our organization. And they go through several Safe Families and Bethany trainings, such as like sexual abuse prevention, awareness trainings, trying to help our host families to be aware if they see children being groomed in the community, to be alert to that. They do a lot of continuing education, and we just want to always constantly have them aware of the most appropriate ways to protect children from being abused or neglected.
Right. If you were to look at or say who is the perfect or ideal or right person to do this, to be a part of this, what would you say?
Yeah, you know, I would say you need to have a heart for others, right?
Okay.
And I love the paradox in the Bible where it talks about it's in giving that you receive, right? And when you help another person, the well-being that you feel. And so it's folks that have that kind of a heart mentality.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So what is the website if we wanted to get some more information? It's
We've
probably
got you
pretty
now.
easy, isn't it? Pretty easy, right?
Yeah, so it's just Bethany.org. For Lancaster, just do a /Lancaster. If you're in the Harrisburg area, /Harrisburg or Reading, same thing. So just Bethany.org.
Okay, all right, that sounds really
If
good.
you want more information about Safe Families, you can visit bethany.org/Safe Families, and it's FAMILIES.
Okay, all right. You probably have a lot of stories and success stories, and every day I'm sure is totally different for you because you never know what you're going to encounter. How long have you been working with Bethany Christian Services?
Yeah, so I've been at Bethany for over 13 years.
Oh,
I've been
wow.
in child welfare for 24 years. This is my 25th year in child welfare. So it just means I'm old.
No, it means you have a real heart for what you do.
Yeah. And I do believe that this is my ministry, right? You know,
Yeah.
I could work for a secular organization. We do believe that this is our, from a ministry perspective, we see this as our ministry, and as workers, as staff, but also as the foster parents as they come and they're open their hearts in their homes to kids in need, and they feel like this is something they're called to do. That sense of calling, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes Bethany different.
Yeah. What about you, Nikki? How long have you been doing this?
Been with Bethany about 5 years now, and
Okay.
I've been with Safe Families for the same amount of time.
Okay, and what brought you to this?
That's a great question. I worked in a school before, a residential treatment facility, and I think I was just I wasn't involved in prevention. And
Okay.
so I think what really spurred my heart to come to Bethany and specifically Safe Families was to get involved with parents and children and make a difference and not be involved in a reactionary system when kids were already placed in residential treatment facilities and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's so important. And that's one of the things that I really, really think is key with this, because you
Right.
want to get to people
Yes.
before this becomes some major crisis
Right.
to, head it off, as it were. I really appreciate everything that you do in this community. And I know there are stories that we have to share and more information about the services that you provide and also how we can get involved. But there's a story that we want you to hear, and we'll be back right after this.
My boys, they mean everything to me. They are my family. I didn't have a family to begin with. Their names are Alexander and Asher. My oldest son is Asher, and he is 3 years old, and my youngest is Alexander, and he just turned 9 months old. When I was younger, I was abused by my biological parents. I didn't know love. I didn't know what a family was. I basically had nobody. I was in Massachusetts and I was homeless at the time. I would jump from house to house to house trying to find a place to live. And my roommate found out that I was pregnant, so they ended up kicking me out, and I reached out to an old friend of mine, and they connected me with Safe Families. When I first met the Harrisons and I walked through their door, it was very welcoming, very inviting atmosphere, and they just brought me in and they loved me like I was their own. And they took care of me, and whenever I need them for support or if I need to talk about some issues that I'm having to, they're always there when I need them the most. So when I was pregnant with Alexander, I had some issues with my pregnancy, and I was a high-risk pregnancy, and they said that I needed as little stress as possible. So it got to the point where I've tried my hardest to try and take care of Asher while I was pregnant with my second child, but it got to the point where I couldn't do it no more. So I had Marjorie come and pick up Asher until after I gave birth. The Harrisons are my family. I call Marjorie and Jonathan mom and dad, and I call their children brother and sister. Many years after meeting the Harrisons, they still invite me over for dinner. They invite me to family parties. Because of the Harrisons taking me in, I want my boys to know that they were loved, even though their biological family doesn't love them. And I want them to know and grow up knowing that family isn't always blood. Family are the people who accept you for who you are, and the people who love you unconditionally and will always be there for you when you need them the most.
Wow, what a difference Bethany Christian Services is making with that story. And I know we have many other stories to get into too. But let's talk a little bit about the pregnancy support and that also then post-adoption services.
Yeah, a service that we've always provided here in Lancaster is pregnancy counseling services. It's a free service, and so anyone that's in what we would call a crisis pregnancy situation, they can come to us, and we will come alongside them and give them their options, help them, give them supports, and Sometimes they choose to have an abortion. Sometimes they make an adoption plan. One of the language we use in this in our world is we say that somebody made a plan for their child's life. They didn't give up their kid for adoption. They made a plan. That's a significant thing. To carry a baby for 9 months and to say, I'm not able to parent this child. Somebody else that can do this. I want my child, the best for my child, and do that. That's a really selfless thing to do.
Absolutely. And recovering mothers with newborns is really important.
Yeah, it's huge. And so this is a program called Renew, and it's Recovering Mothers with Newborns. And it's an example of how Bethany works. I always tell folks that we're a leadership organization and that there's no two branches that look alike. We have branches across the United States in 30 different states, but there's no two branches that look alike. And because we're a leadership organization, we have a lot of autonomy. And so about 5 years ago, a gal named Jen worked for another organization that I was on the board of directors. And this organization was helping children of incarcerated parents. And so she was working in the prison, and she was helping those kiddos connect with their parents, because they know if the parents visit with their families, recidivism is cut in half, right? So that was part of her objective. But she said, Mark, she knew about Safe Families. She said, Mark, I got to do something here. I'm seeing all these women. They're coming into Lancaster County Prison. They have a substance use disorder, and they're pregnant, and nobody's helping them. We got to do something. She said, Jen, let's pray about this, see what we can do. And we explored some funding through Lancaster County Community Foundation. They gave us a grant that got us started. And then Bethany supported us for another year. And now we have federal funding. And so we are providing services for women who are in Lancaster County Prison. We've had 24 women who have graduated. Out of those 24 women, 18 women are currently parenting their children, productive members of our society because of this program.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that's really huge. So how many do you serve in our community on an annual basis?
So the number sounds low, but it's really about 35 or so in this area in Lancaster County. But what's great news is that we've been able to expand this program to Harrisburg, and we're to York and to Reading as well.
Okay, and I know it's really important to talk about the refugee and immigrant resettlement, employment, and all of that is huge.
It is, and just one of the great things that I love to boast about Lancaster is that we're a welcoming city, and so Lancaster is really known as for caring for refugees and immigrants. And so what many people don't realize that we're in the worst crisis for displaced people in the world ever in human history. There's approximately 70 million people in the world who are displaced out of their homes because of war and violence and all kinds of things, right? And that number is so huge, but to wrap your arms around that, that number is, if you took the population of Texas and California, combined them together, there's more people who are out of their homes than that number, which is huge. Yeah.
Boy, that is huge. But there are good success stories, and Nikki, you've got some. Tell us something.
I do. I've got lots of stories for you. But one that just comes to mind off the top of my head is, serving a parent who's experiencing a medical crisis is something that we do a lot in Safe Families. We have a 98% return to parent rate, so that is always our goal with Safe Families. We recently served a parent who was facing epilepsy, and so obviously that's a very severe condition, and it makes it extremely difficult to parent your young children when you don't have that support network. So we've paired her with a volunteer host family who can host her children when she's having a medical need, or just when she needs someone to talk to. She can call our host family. We also have a family friend arrangement for her. Family friend is another volunteer role. Those family friends can babysit her children when she has medical appointments. Absolutely this mom would have had her children placed in foster care if Safe Families wasn't able to step in. But because she was able to increase her supports in the community, she's able to keep her children with her, which is 100% the goal that we're focused on.
That's great.
One of the cool things about Safe Families, too, is as these folks are helping people like this woman, they can come alongside her and continue help her like an aunt and uncle relationship. They can continue that relationship after Safe Families has helped them.
Absolutely. We have host families that are still involved with the first parent they hosted for 3 years later.
That's awesome.
This is a voluntary relationship, and that's what's so great about it. There's no court involvement. Our host families are hosting because it's in their heart to do that, and our clients are making great relationships with people in the community.
Okay, so if someone's watching and they want to get involved as a volunteer in any capacity, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so go to our website,
Okay.
Bethany.org. For Safe Families, you can also call the number, and go ahead.
So You can do bethany.org/safefamilies. You can go to safe-families.org, or you can text the word SAFE, S-A-F-E, to the number 33339.
Okay. You need funding as well, right? Because you
absolutely.
are a
Yes.
501c3 nonprofit.
Yes.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so one of the realities is that as we have contracts with the counties and foster care and different contracts, there is a non-billable segment of every contract that we take, and so it's about 7%. So we need to make up that 7% for every contract that we make. And so, yeah, so donations is how our agency makes it every year.
Yeah.
And so that's where, again, people see that we're making a difference and want to join us in that.
Yeah, and you are making a difference. And we have a little bit of time for you to tell us one more story, Mark.
Sure. So, and it's a safe family story, and it's right here in Lancaster, and this was probably 4 years ago. And there was a woman who had 2 children. She was 9 months pregnant, about to give birth, and so she was referred to Safe Families, and so they took in her 2 children. She went to the hospital, gave birth to her 3rd child, and they just came alongside her and loved on her, and she actually asked the question, "Why are you doing this?" And they said, "Because this is what our faith is all about. It's helping others and making a difference in people's lives." Long story short, she is now part of that church and has been a continued member since then, and their family is growing up strong with all the supports that that church can give them.
What happens to one of us happens to all of us.
Amen.
Makes a big difference.
Yep.
Nikki, give us a final thought.
Like Mark and I were talking about earlier with Safe Families, everybody can do something.
Yep.
Yeah.
So from hosting children in your home temporarily, to praying, to dropping off diapers, to making a meal and dropping that off to a host family while they're hosting, or a parent after they've just experienced a medical crisis, everybody can do something. That would be
Yeah.
my message.
Thank you for the difference you're making in the community and in our world.
Thank you for the opportunity to share with you today. We so
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for joining us today, too. I'm Diane Dayton with Behind the Lines, reminding you to look behind the lines. You might be surprised what you find.